Good evening to all of our viewers and listeners, and welcome to the last show for the year. We're going to start back fresh in January to episode 7 of Fitness Focus with Chau. Tonight we have a very special treat. A few weeks ago, we had the trainer for the Jamaica national cricket team. Right now, we have the manager for the Trinidad and Tobago national cricket team, Red Force, Sebastian Edwards.
Aye,
Eh, So to give you all a quick a quick background, Sebastian is actually also the manager for the Merryboys Sports Club, which is a cricket team based out of Diego Martin.
yeah.
So
President,
Sebastian,
president, well, president and manager.
right, president and manager. Um, First question: how did you get into cricket, Sebastian?
Well, cricket wasn't always our first love of mine. My first love was football. I grew up playing football, under 16 football for the village and school. Um, it was probably much later on, probably at about probably 21, seeing that the club Merryboys Sports Club they started playing close to me. And one day I was in Savannah, I was actually playing football. We had a small sweat going on in Savannah. And guys came, started working out and stuff. And around 10 o'clock, they say, well, everybody else have to get off the field. We was kind of peeved, but we stuck around taking the game. Everybody else left. I sat down in the hot sun and watching these guys. And it piqued my interest then. I never really played much except for really win ball cricket and stuff like that. But it piqued me too. So I started to come out once the club had home games, come out and sit down, take a look at the games and so on. Every weekend, once I was free, I would come out and take a look at the games. I started looking at cricket on TV and so on. And there the love just grew from strength to strength.
Cool, man, cool. Um, so from watching and playing a little bit and stuff, one day you find yourself suddenly managing Merry Boys. How did that happen?
Well, it didn't really start off as being the manager. What it started off was assistant to the club president, because at the time the then club president, Mr. Patrick Rampasad, was the lifeblood of the club. He was chief, as they say, chief cook and bottle washer. And being around, seeing as a village club, seeing him struggling to get certain things done, even with the field, and being in the public service, and knowing that I could bring certain things to bear in terms of assistance to him, small assistance at the time. I started sometimes with whatever little funds I had. When I come in to watch a game, I would just walk with probably 2 cases of water, some Gatorade or something like that. And then players started to encourage me to travel with the team, to either travel or come look at games when they're playing in Guarakara Park, because Mary Boys had a lot of finals and stuff in Guarakara Park and so on. So I started going out with the team, to taking my family to games and so on. And it just grew from that. And probably like 15 years ago, Mr. Rampasad called me in his office that day and said, look, come, you just have all your weekends free? I said, well, not really. So he said, like, here, so here what? I could offer you a small stipend to just continue just what you started doing, and just a little more with just a little more responsibility. So I started basically organizing things like getting the team list ready, making sure all the players fit with the trainers and whatnot, and just basically doing things that was the menial tasks then in the club. And it just went from strength to strength to helping organizing the wickets, helping organize ball, helping organize almost everything. Um, and then he died. Certainly at the end of one season,
Right.
that was it. And basically, I think it was written for me to become, to take over from him, right? Because it had not, basically, other point, seeing how difficult it was as manager with him as president. I was seeing how difficult, but nothing could have prepared me for really how difficult it is to be fully in charge of a Premier League sports club. It's a huge responsibility. A lot rides on your shoulder. A lot of people looking up to you, expecting a lot of stuff from you. Is a huge responsibility.
So, how did it differ from being the assistant to the manager? I mean, like, what are some of your duties? You said seeing about getting the balls and seeing about, say, whatever. What are
Right.
some of the
So
duties that you
so the
had?
difference now with being the club president and still also being the manager basically is that the stuff that in terms of funding that the club president would have done before, that was left up to me,
Right.
right? It had literally no one coming forward to say, well, okay, look, here's X amount of money, Y amount of money. We know the club going through a phase. It had nothing like that. Nothing like that. Everything fell on my shoulders, basically. I must commend a couple people for sticking by me and sticking by the club in that time. Um, ah, mm. Sorry,
Right.
Emma.
No problem. No
Ah, yeah,
problem.
yeah, yeah.
I've been there with you, so I understand. I understand. I understand. So aside from that, I mean, the funding is definitely one. What other challenges have you faced?
Repeat again.
I said the funding was one. Um,
Mm.
what other challenges have you faced as manager in terms of, you know, team
Well,
organizing and that kind of stuff?
one of the major challenges is to try and bring structure to the club, to bring
Right,
some sort of structure to the club, right? Is The club previously, while it had an informal structure, there was nothing formal. So all the responsibilities basically rested with just a couple people.
right,
The president of the club, myself, and one or two others in the background and so on. But
right.
after that, when he passed away, it was like when you really get into what happens in terms of running the club on a daily basis is a lot of responsibility, a lot of responsibility.
Um, but just to bring back up the finance thing, I understand that the funding issue is not just a Mary Boys issue. You know, there's a whole issue with getting any kind of corporate sponsorship across the entire league. You have a few teams that are sponsored, and everybody else just, you know, you have players playing for free and for small amounts of money and that kind of stuff because the corporate support is just not there. Is this true?
It it's true. It's very true. Actually, one of my pet peeves is that at all levels, in terms of sport nationwide, we we get, because I was involved with football, because in between managing Merryboys, I also managed for probably 2 seasons a successful football club that played in the Diego Martin Football League.
Right.
And even with football, And even though football has more avenues for sponsorship and people gravitate towards football much more than cricket, it's, how would I say, sponsorship from the corporate sponsorship
Mm-hmm.
is slim to none. And that goes two ways, really, because from my experience with corporate sponsors and in talking to people who knows the avenues for sponsorship and so on, what I have learned is that sponsors have basically gotten fed up of clubs or teams or entities coming to them cap in hand and begging like, well, look, I need $50,000 to run a competition, or I need $200,000 to run my team for the year, or whatever the case might be, right? What I have started trying to do in terms of generating funds is not just trying to get the club to be self-sufficient. We need sponsorship because I can't do it alone. I've failed at trying to spend my personal funds to run the club. It didn't work, right? It didn't work because there's a lot that goes into managing or funding a cricket team. I
Mm-hmm.
have had some assistance, I won't lie, but it's just not enough. In terms of going to sponsors, I am not going to a sponsor and say, well, look, this is Merryboys Club. We are 5-time National League champions, 2-time, 3-time T20 champions. We are a big brand, and well, that is it. I want 200,000 from you. If I'm going to a sponsor, I mean, COVID and the situation now, the pandemic has damaged that relationship heavily. But
Mm-hmm.
if I'm going to sponsors now, not cap in hand, but I'm saying to a sponsor, look, I have 3 players on my club who are world class. People want to see them, right? And in return for sponsoring my club, the money that you may have spent on advertising, you would get that back. You would get that advertising dollar at my home ground. You
Mm-hmm.
could come on the day we have games and put up streamers, flyers, because the ground is basically open to the road. People will pass, they
Right.
will see your product. My players would be on all our social media pages showing on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram with your product. A lot of our players have heavily into social media. So it's not a one way job. It's
Mm-hmm.
you're not giving me anything for nothing. Whatever you're giving me, you will be getting back in return.
Right. Well, I must say that you've done pretty well. You were able to get, you feed your players, you get uniforms, you got um, you got um, a trainer, you got a coach in Budish Duki, who's actually a pretty good coach, with limited funds, limited resources, Um, so I must say that I have to commend you on that. But I really do have another big question here.
Sure.
You were able to transition from being a league manager to a national manager. You know, how did you make that transition to become the Red Force manager?
Ah, well, actually, being 1 second, yeah, being the club manager and what I had done with the club in such a short, well, in the higher ups eyes, what they saw in such a short time, in what I had done in terms of bringing Mary Boys up to standard, right? In terms of bringing Mary Boys back or keeping the club alive then, and seeing that the little bit of discipline that was instilled in the club, right? That probably helped my cause just a little bit. And the fact that
Mm-hmm.
a number of the senior players that were coming back, I would like to believe that these players wanted to see some level of change in terms of
Mm-hmm.
the management structure and so on. So that's what probably prompted the move to look at a different manager and so on. But the the change, knowing how difficult it was with Merryboys, managing the national team while it's well, a bigger profile,
Mm-hmm.
it's not as difficult. It's basically what I do best. What I
Right.
do best is manage a system. We
Right.
put a system in place. The captain, the coach, myself, we put a system in place for the team, and we work
Mm-hmm.
with that to try to manage the team. Right? I would
Right.
my so on.
Sorry about that. Can you repeat that?
Yeah. Um, just dealing in terms of if the players have issues, like one pertinent issue when we traveled to Antigua within the pandemic, we were, well, it's a bubble. We're not allowed to go to too much places, right?
Mm-hmm.
Except in a structured manner. Sorry. But what we had a couple of issues that came up where the information was needed
Mm-hmm.
that I would not have had at hand. So it meant having to basically wake up players in the middle of the night to get information from them and so on to pass on to the tournament organizers. It was difficult sometimes, but most times players just, as we say, roll with the punches.
Yeah.
I mean,
Uh,
it looked good. It looked good on TV that when we
mm-hmm.
put the team on the park, every single game we won. But
Right.
what went on behind the trainers, one of our trainers basically had to be a trainer, a psychologist, a father, coach. Coach had to do almost the same thing. He had to be a, a mentor, a coach, a father. I had to be doing some of the same things while doing all my normal managerial duties. So it was difficult. I don't even think it as difficult as managing Merryboys, because everything that you're doing with the national team, that gets paid for. Otherwise, you don't have to worry about
Right.
that, right? You just have to worry about the procedures and make sure the procedures runs as smoothly as possible, and that the players that going out in the park are as comfortable as possible. Incidentally, just to mention, I think this year with the national team, I think this is the first year that the support staff that we took with us on that tour was probably the most support staff that ever went with a national team. I could be wrong, but as far as my memory serves me, that's the most support staff I have seen with the national team.
Well, what I want to do is I want to give two videos back to back. I'll show a little, I guess, show people a little bit difference between league and national, right?
Sure. All right.
Um, so we're going to show a little coaching session, a little clip of a coaching session from the Merry Boys training, and then follow that up with a little clip of the coaching session from Red Boys, from Red Force, sorry.
Okay.
All right. All right. So what we saw there was, I guess, two different approaches, both of which to me are successful. But do you want to tell us what your view on the different approaches is?
Well, the different approach for me was a little more for the play, actual activity focus and higher intensity.
Right.
Right? The coaching with Merryboys was a little laid back, and probably from that particular video a little argumentative or critical. But the video with the national team is where you're seeing basically everybody involved, the exercise fairly high intensity, and from what I have learned, how you practice is how you play.
Yeah.
If you practice at low intensity, you will play with low intensity. If you practice weak, you will play weak. So that's my take on the difference between the two. And as you saw from the video, Carey basically gave it all. He didn't hold
Absolutely.
back. He didn't hold back. He gave it all, and that is transposed onto the field of play.
Yeah. He even got that diving catch and everything. So from my point of view also, what I would say is I almost feel like if in the Merryboys coaching session, there was still, I guess, teaching going on.
Yeah,
The coach was trying to teach, hey, this is what you do, this is what you do, whatever. Whereas on the national team, everyone is assumed to be at a certain level. So now it's just a matter of drilling it home, practice it,
yeah.
practice it, practice it. So you had that drill that Carey was doing. Excellent job on his part, by the way. You know, and you were out there in the middle, in between the coach and the player, and you had no worries about that ball hitting you.
No, I've been around, as I said before, I've
Yeah.
been around hardball cricket for the past 20 plus years. So being aware of what's going on the field is nothing. I mean, in the past, I got hit couple times
Mm-hmm.
trying stuff, but it's okay. It's not a bullet to go heal. I mean, unless a
True
fast
that.
bowler hitting in your head or something like that, it go heal.
Yeah, true that, true that, true
Yeah, but
that.
the other thing I would like to mention too about the different levels between club and country, right? What I would say at our level, Premiership 1, where Merryboys was before, we are Premiership 2 now. Premiership 1 is basically the third highest level of cricket in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Because after that level of cricket, you go on to play for Trinidad, which
Right,
would be playing regional cricket.
right,
When you play regional cricket, you're playing against the other countries that make up Cricket West Indies.
right,
That's regional cricket. And from there is to play for West Indies,
right. Which
right?
is
So
international.
it's international. So club cricket, Premier 1 club cricket in Trinidad is the third highest level of cricket in the world. And
Mm-hmm.
that's where basically coaches at that level should basically be fine-tuning players' craft.
Right.
There still should be an element of teaching going on at club cricket level, because my firm belief is that at national level, the national coach should only be working out any flaws that he see in a player's game when he gets selected to play for Trinidad.
Mm-hmm.
It should be that at the national level that the coach has to be teaching our player how to hold our bat, how to hold the ball when you're going to bowl a particular delivery and so on. That should be happening from grassroots level, coming all the way up to club cricket.
Right.
At
Agreed.
national
Agreed.
level, the national coach should be getting the almost finished article
Right.
in our player, because to get selected to the national team, it should be that you're either scoring plenty runs or you're taking plenty wickets, right? So whatever else happens to get players on the team, I don't know.
So what I will I want to move on to though. I noticed that in both videos there, and in two more videos we'll see later on, you're using the Diego Martin Sporting Complex, right? Outside of that, we have Queens Park Oval. We have I think it's the Atto Bolden Stadium. The Brand, we have a few stadia, but I feel like if they are few and far between. How do you feel about the number of um, world class sporting facilities that are available for teams to train on?
Well, in terms of the national team,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of at national level, we had the Brian Lara Stadium in
Mm-hmm.
Tobago, we had the Queens Park Oval, we
Mm-hmm.
have National Cricket Center, and we have UE.
Mm-hmm.
UE Spec is also a first class venue. Well, it
Right.
hasn't been
Yes.
selected, but it's a class venue, and
Mm-hmm.
now with Diego Martin fairly new, so we have that also.
Right.
Um, in terms of one of my friends, my good friends, Imran Jan, mentioned it recently, and I think what he said has a lot of merit in terms of the question that you're asking. Because when our
Mm-hmm.
players go up to play, like the West Indies play team that playing in Pakistan, and they're playing against players who've been playing on excellent pitches, excellent stadium, excellent outfield, right? You see the difference in terms of ability, the ability of these players, right?
Right.
Australia is the other one. Australia pitches. Most of the time, you see teams from the Caribbean go to Australia. They look like they don't know how to play cricket, really, right? They look like they don't know how to play cricket. They look ordinary, and
Mm-hmm.
that's because the the facilities that we have, even some of the better facilities, still are not on par with international standards. And I don't think you will get players getting up to that level if we don't start from down below. So for batsmen to be able to play good pace,
Mm-hmm.
you cannot be learning to play good pace when the wicket that the bowler is bowling on only taking spin.
Right.
And you could only do so much inside the nets, with a bowling machine. You could only do
Correct.
so much good. We
With
need
astroturf and concrete
yeah,
surfaces and all
yeah,
sorts of things.
that's not what cricket is get played on.
Right.
So we need to develop, and that's another thing. Myself and a couple people took steps towards that, because a number of players complimented the club when they came to Diego Martin to play in terms of the quality of the wicket that they played on. A lot of players, national players too, right, said that that was one of the better wickets that they played on in the country. But the problem with that is, Mark, building a proper cricket wicket is, as my good friend Shekhar Man would say, if you don't love it, waste of
Hmm.
time. They could pay you how much money. If you don't love doing it, because Mark is a lot of hard work.
Yeah, I know you've put your hand in preparing that wicket and
Well,
stuff.
I actually
you
went
know.
went to a course, and a couple of other clubs at National League level went to a course with Sheikh Armano to learn how to build wickets, how to prepare wickets. But
Right.
the issue, well, except for probably Queen's Park and one or two other clubs at National League level, the emphasis hardly is on preparing a proper cricket surface.
Right.
Because if you look at most of the groundsmen around, they get paid very little. The
True
groundsmen
that.
get paid very little. It have groundsmen around that love their job, but they get paid very little because clubs don't see that as a worthy investment in terms of building better players.
Mm-hmm. All right. So what we're going to do now, we're going to take a quick commercial break. We're going to take a look at this video here.
Have I ever been a victim of body shaming? I would say recently, as I've gotten into fitness, especially in the Caribbean.
Have I been a victim of body shaming? Yes, I have.
Have I ever been a victim of body shaming? Definitely yes.
I have been a victim of body shaming.
I have been a victim of body shaming, especially when I was pregnant. Do pregnant women face body shaming or other types of ignorance?
Yes, I have been a victim of body shaming.
I have been a victim of body shaming.
Yeah, I've been a victim of body shaming quite often.
Interesting thing about body shaming is it doesn't take any one form.
I have been a victim of body shaming throughout my life, really.
Have I ever been a victim of body shaming? Yes.
All right. So for those who don't know, Hybrid Caribbean magazine has decided to take on body shaming by putting out our own body issue, where we have athletes of different, competitive, non-competitive athletes, people who are just hobbyists in fitness and that kind of stuff. They well, we, because you saw I was in it, take we did, a series of photo shoots in order to highlight this issue, because this is an issue that is very, very serious, I would say, in the Caribbean. And it's something that we ignore. The typical comeback is, oh gosh, you can't take a little peacock, we just joking, not realizing that although some people are able to take those jokes, a lot of people aren't. We have, Daniela and April, both of whom are mothers. And as a mother, you go through a certain amount of body shaming, Thankfully, we're seeing a lot of people saying, yes, mothers are beautiful and whatever. But we still have people telling mothers they're fat. And then afterwards, when they get their stretch marks, wow, those things are so hideous. You have to take this and the other to get rid of it, and all sorts of crazy things. We have Charlene, who decided to take a turn towards her fitness. She even competed in, I believe it was the bikini category. And the end result was people saying, oh, wow, you're so muscular, you look like a man, and why you're too muscular for a woman, and all sorts of strange things, So the goal, of course, was to highlight these issues and ensure that we have a more positive outlook on body image, on our own images, how we see ourselves. And here's the good news. The Hybrid magazine collector's edition body issue will be coming out this week. We should have them available by Wednesday. They will be $200 TT or $30 US plus shipping or delivery. Right? So what we're going to do, we're going to take a look at another video. We're having a little bit of technical difficulties here, but we're going to take a look at another video of the Merryboys team doing a little bit of training here, a little bit of fitness training. We saw some coaching. We're going to look at some training now. All right. Stretch both legs out in front of you, legs together. Carry your left hand behind you, Carry your left hand behind you, right hand on your left hip, and twist. You all recognize that? Anyone from that video there? Yes, that was yours truly during my, I guess, brief stint, my brief 2-year stint. I can't remember if that was the first or the second year, but that was my, during my brief 2-year stint with Merryboys as the Merryboys team trainer. I was taking them through a little stretch after a game, I believe. That's very important. A lot of people don't recognize the importance of a cool down after a game, because a game is actually very strenuous. It's a full day of exercise, mental and physical, and it's a little time to cool down, right? So, Sebastian, are you back with us? Okay, we can't hear you. You need to check your mic.
Yeah, sorry, I had my mic muted for a bit. Sorry.
No problem. All right, so you saw, we just played a little clip of me working with the Merryboys team. So that brings me to I guess the magazine's focus, the fitness aspect of it. How important do you think fitness is? I mean, I must bring up this name, Cornwall. Yeah. So looking at people like him, how important do you think fitness is in this sport?
For everybody, fitness in cricket is extremely important.
Mm-hmm.
I think most people would have seen the emphasis that Cricket West Indies puts on the fitness tests,
right?
Meaning the yo-yo tests, that they raise the level to around 40 for the yo-yo test. And it's not just that. There's a whole lot of things that goes into what constitutes a fitness test for most people. What people wouldn't see is that some players would be, because of their ability, would be given a bly in terms of certain aspects of the fitness test. That doesn't mean that they don't have standards to meet as players. So even if we're discussing Rakim has a standard that he needs to meet always. Even Crampy, Chris Gale, he has a standard that he has to meet at his age. It goes with age, size, ability, and so on. Everybody has a standard to meet. That would be standard that each player would have to meet, would be based on their ability and their fitness level, and what the coach is asking them to work on. Because, all right, for a batsman, what usually happens with a batsman in terms of his level of fitness? When a batsman goes out to bat, he's walking around with basically about 15 pounds of equipment.
True that.
He's walking on. He has to run up and down 22 yards, sometimes more, back and forth, right? With close to 15 pounds of equipment. Pads, box, tie pad, helmet, gloves, and in some
forearm
cases,
pad, and of course the bats.
like my captain, my club captain Mario Belcon, a 2.5 pound bat. Right? So and when you start the bat, if you as a trainer, you would know in terms of repetitive movement that you have to lift that bat up off the ground and play a stroke, whether it be defensively or attacking stroke, for 6 ball, for depending on what level of cricket you're playing, what game you're playing, you have to be doing that consistently. And if you're not fit after 15, 20 minutes of doing just that, you will get tired. And as a trainer, you would see that when we get tired, right? That when we get tired, the mind starts to lose focus.
Correct.
As a batsman, you can't focus on where the delivery coming from, where it going to, where you want to hit it. So that is when batsmen is most times start, as it is say, start to whoop.
I've seen it time and time again.
And for bowlers, the constant repetitive running in. For a spin bowler, it's probably a little easier because their run up probably a little shorter. But for a fast bowler, you have to run up at speed for 6 balls in 1 over, and then go back and feel, and probably if the next bowler don't like you a little bit, or you just bowling bad, the ball finding you somewhere, wherever you are on the field, and you have to continue doing that running. And the other thing about cricket and fitness is that when you're fielding, you're basically on the field for almost the entire day, barring two breaks, lunch and tea for a long format game, and just the innings change from one team to the other in a 50 over game or a T20 game. Right? So you're on your feet running, some cases long distances. So fitness does play an important part at any level of cricket. I dare say, even win ball cricket, fitness plays an important part.
Oh yeah. You mentioned something just now about mental focus, and that actually brings up something that's near and dear to our hearts, because we have people involved in hybrid who are going through some tough times now, but mental health. Now, I'm going to say this from my experience. From my experience in Merryboys, when you were talking about in the national team, where the trainer and the coach have to be trainers and coaches, but they also have to be psychologists and things. That was literally my experience as a trainer of Merryboys, right? Focus on training, focus on getting that fitness and stuff up while we're training. But how many times I had to resolve conflicts, how many times I had to pull somebody aside and ask, what's going on? Where's your focus? And, work through issues with people and stuff, right? So that, to me, mental health is important. But I want to hear what's your take on how mental health factors into the team, into the sport, into performance, individual and team performance. And was it something that... Sorry, go ahead.
I can use a couple examples of why mental health is so important in sport. The pronunciation of the name kind of missing me right now, but the Japanese tennis player recently, she had massive issues with mental health and mental focus, so much so that she had to pull out from a tournament. And when we look at most of the good franchise teams in whether cricket or football, all these clubs has on their staff a sports psychologist.
Right.
All the good, great teams have on their staff a sports psychologist that would observe the players and talk to the players, because as we would know from a management perspective that talking about problems, talking about issues, mental issues, or even talking about mental focus is not something that people comfortable doing, right? It's not something that most, and dare I say, most men not comfortable talking about mental health or any issue for that matter.
Yeah.
Right? So at that level of sports where we expecting men to be strong, to be fit, to be agile, to be the best that they could be, most people would see a player talking to a psychologist as a sign of weakness. Or
Right.
most people would think to themselves that is a sign of weakness. And the best batsman on the team or the best bowler on the team don't want to be perceived as being weak. So they would have all that additional stress on them all through the games, all through training, all that. They have all this additional stress and no avenue to release it. Hence, what I would say is the need for some sort of mental health coaching aspect for players and I dare say administrators, because sometimes I know it have administrators want to go mad. I've seen it where administrators trip off when certain things happening on the field of play and disappear from the ground. Right? Mental health is a serious issue for athletes in general.
Yeah. Agreed. And as I said, I've experienced it as a trainer of Merryboys, where I had to step in, where you had to step in. I can't say the coach stepped in, but I'm not around. Wasn't around the coach at all times. Where certain players had to pull aside and talk to each other to uplift each other, and find out when he asks, it's something going on at home or something. It's a huge thing. It's a huge thing.
Mark, everybody has, apart from your regular job. Even if cricket is your regular job, everybody has stuff that plays on them at all times. And one of the things that I observe is that when an individual appears to be strong, appears to be fit and strong, and appears to be mentally strong, most times these are the people that need to talk to somebody.
Yeah.
Because holding up that, as we just call it, that facade for so long, it is wear on you until at some point in time you either just break down or explode.
Yeah, agreed. I want to take one more video clip. Before that, we had a couple of Merryboys in. Yes, I know you saw them.
Yeah,
good night, Julie. Good night, Julie. Good night,
Julie.
Kedu.
Good night, Julie. Night, Kedu.
Good to see you all. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for the support, guys. All right, we're going to take one last video. As we were talking about fitness, he showed a little bit of the stretch from Merryboys. We're going to take a little look at the training for the Red Force, right? A little piece of it, just a little piece. All right. I mean, again, as we were talking about it, you could see the intensity there. I will say honestly, I think that there is a difference in mentality between club players and national players, because I can't say that I got that kind of dedication out across the board with the team. There were some players who would hit it. But some, it was a little bit more of a challenge. And I mean, that really goes into the difference between I guess, club mentality and national mentality, you know. But anyway, last question. Your own fitness, because I see you posting your videos. I know, we have spoken about your training. I mean, how important is your own fitness, your own training to your life as well as to being a manager of two cricket teams?
For me now, at my age, fitness is important, especially not just physical fitness, mental fitness, because as club manager, it have a lot of stuff to be on top of at all times. And as Red Force manager, is even more stuff that you have to be on, because it's not just players, and we're talking about players who come in to play cricket, and they basically, in most times, they come in to meet stuff in place for them at that level.
Mm-hmm.
At club level, you could come with a jersey that you're playing last year and so on. But at national level, the administration needs to make sure that when the players come in for training, that before they leave home, they have gears to train in to look like a national team. So that's all part of being the manager's job, to ensure that these players have that, all that is organized way before we even think about going on a tournament.
Right.
So it's organized for the training squad, and then when the squad that travels gets selected, there's a whole other, so mentally you need to be fit. And it have times when sometimes, like when the trainer is doing a drill, right, players would be lapsing it. Even at national level, you would see players lagging behind on the drill. And what I have started, and hence the reason why I try to stay at a certain level of fitness myself, is that I could jump in the drill and say, well, hey, look, I might be twice your age, and look, I could do the same drill.
Right.
Right? And that also helps to motivate some of the players into doing, or we would challenge them. The trainers myself would challenge them that, look, if me and manage get this done in so and so time, you need to do it in half the time. So you need to be at a certain level of fitness to get most of that stuff done as possible. I train probably, well, I do mostly resistance training. My cardio training is basically taking my mountain bike out for a spin for a couple of hours or something like that. Because from the only cardio I probably liked before was playing football or playing cricket. Right? Running up and down the field, playing football and stuff like that. But other than that, playing basketball, that was my cardio. Outside of that, I would be in the gym trying to see how much stuff I can lift up and put down.
I think you and I have that in common, the love of the gym. All right, so that's pretty much most of the interview. We do have one last thing. It's a rapid fire. A little rapid fire thing called the last rep. I ask you 10 quick questions, and we get Sebastian Edwards a little bit more personally, right?
Okay.
You ready for it?
All right.
All right. First question. Favorite junk food?
Fried chicken.
I don't know why it is that everybody has to pause on that first question. It's like,
not KFC, not KFC, fried chicken.
I understand completely.
Or what? Not KFC.
Right. Squats or deadlifts?
Both.
Legs or chest?
Chest.
If you're feeling really down and you need a little pick-me-up, what's your go-to exercise?
Squats.
If there was one person in the world you can either train with or be trained by, who would your fantasy workout partner or trainer be?
Lee Haney. He's an old bodybuilder. A lot of people might know him. He's a African American bodybuilder. He was one of the
Right,
biggest
right.
bodybuilders ever.
Okay, okay. What's your favorite workout music?
Soca.
That's the right answer. Just to let you know. Cardio or weights?
Weights.
No, you can include martial arts, dance, football, cricket. What's your favorite sport to play?
Besides cricket and football?
It could be, you could bring them up. You could bring up either one of them.
One of my favorite sports that I never really got to play much of was table tennis.
Serious. I'll teach you sometime. Protein supplements or diets?
That's a tough one. That's a tough one. Because, well, personally, I always had challenges dieting. I don't know people. People would say you just licorice. But I don't know. I like to eat. That's why I probably train so hard. But
right.
Now that I'm training a lot more regular, protein supplements.
Right. And the last question, perhaps the most important question of them all. Are you ready for it?
Of course.
TV or cinema?
TV. I like my house.
Cool. Well, thank you for participating in the interview, and especially for humoring us with the last rep there. Just one last thing. This is my mom. Night, Mom.
Hi, Miss Carol.
So she says, sharing these critical issues which can affect the performance of our sports personalities would hopefully bring a better level of understanding and support. I think that's a very valid point, and I'm really glad I got a chance to talk with you about some of these things, Sebastian, because you would know it from different levels as a player in football and cricket, as an assistant manager, as a manager at club level, and a manager at a national level. You would see how physical fitness and mental fitness actually play a huge part in sport performance, you know? So I'm really glad I got a chance to talk to you about these things.
That's why I said earlier on that you're onto something in terms of bringing these issues to the fore. Because there are a lot of players, again, at all levels of sport that need to be able to have a confidential one-on-one with somebody. If even because in my day job, right, with my ministry and previously where I worked in a labor intensive program, there are a lot of people have seen, and one person, a good friend of mine, Dr. Amory Brown, once said to me, he said there are a lot of people out there who carry around a lot of burdens, and all they need sometimes is just somebody to listen.
Yeah.
That's all. Just listen. Just listen to them and just listen. You don't have to say anything most times, because with some of the problems some people might have, you can't offer anything really.
Yeah.
Other than to say that you understand what they're going through, you feel for what they're going through, you empathize with what they're going through. But just to listen to them, because for some people, just talking out what they're going through is a big, big help that would help them relieve some of the stress that they have.
I completely agree. I'll say it one more time. I completely agree. Thanks again, Sebastian. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast, for passing on your wisdom, your experience, and everything. It was really a great session, a great interview. We'll talk some more.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. As I said, this was the last episode for the year, episode 7. Tune in next year, January 7th, for episode 8, where we have another wonderful, special, magnificent treat. We will be interviewing National Elite Olympic weightlifter Karin Singh. And for those of you who celebrate it, enjoy your Christmas, enjoy your Kwanzaa, enjoy your Hanukkah. And for those who don't, remember to still be safe out there. There's a lot of people drinking and driving, a lot of people being reckless. And of course, we also have to consider this is COVID season. So you got to think about what you're doing. See you all next year. Hope you have a bright and prosperous new year.